Good morning. Glad that so many of you are here this morning, and we really appreciate it. It seems like our numbers are growing back up again, so that's great. Anyway, when you came in, you probably saw this little flyer out there. You've also been getting them in your emails, but this little creative flyer here is about all the upcoming events. If you didn't get one, just let me know, and I'll bring you one to you. But it kind of tells you what's going on and some dates, and then on the back side is the larger flyer, which is on the kickoff and potluck. And let me explain how the potluck works. Down there in the red square, it kind of explains how it is. So if your last name, the first letter of your last name, is what you're following. So I used my last name, Mitchell, and I underlined the M, and so I'm to bring bread or desserts, okay? So that's basically how it works. So you just use the first letter of your last name, and that's what you would bring to the potluck. And apparently last year we had some fantastic dishes. I think it was almost a competition of who brought the best food. So we might have a little door prize or something like that going on. But anyway, it's at 6 p.m. and it's going to be right across the way there in the larger training room, because we do have a large group that's coming. You'll also get all the information on the upcoming grant. We'll have some packets available for you to take with you. We'll be just rolling everything out and talking about all the other activities that we'll be having. We should have maybe have our book ready for you also on the training, and we're going to continue the training just like we did this year, but next year we're going to alternate some months, spread them out a little more. But Chris has been really working on kind of zero in how we're going to do this leadership, and I think you're going to be really excited about what's coming up in this next year, because it's like moving you guys forward. We did the individual this year, now we're going to move forward and kind of do a little more broadening of your horizon on your leadership. So some good stuff coming up. Just to let you know, if you are planning on doing any kind of grant for next year, it is a mandatory meeting. So put that on your calendar, put that in your booklet and all that. Also want to let you know that we are having a graduation at the end of next month, the 26th. That's on this side. It has the little graduation hat. We're just going to have some coffee and cake and little hoo-ha, right? Go on. So also on October 14th, that's when we have moved the community mobile tour. That's a good time. The flyer's fixing to go out to show you everywhere that we are going to, everywhere we're going to be going on the bus. And I promise you it won't be a yellow bus. It won't be a short bus. So it's actually going to be a lot of fun. And what we did is the tickets are going to be first come, first serve by those of you that have kind of successfully followed the program here with your grant. So if you're up on your activity reports, you're up on everything that you should be getting to us, the financial stuff, all that. We've attended one of your board meetings, and you've done everything right, or if you're working in the progress of getting everything right now with us, then you will get the tickets first. So it's kind of a little reward to all of ours, the people that are all our organizations that have fulfilled their obligation with us. And that's how we want to say thank you. Yeah, we will have a continental breakfast, and then the bus is going to leave. It's going to leave from our office. So if you don't know where our office is, it will be on the flyer, but also get with us and we'll give you exact directions. And lastly, I just want to talk about that there's no training for the months of November and December, just a little reminder. So if you've gotten used to it, there's none for November and December. We will do the rollout. Also, if we haven't been to a board meeting of yours, please get with us. We'd like to attend a board meeting. And if you haven't turned in your activity reports, please also get with us. Brad and I will be out in the hall. So if any of you need to talk with us on that while Chris is doing the training. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Chris.
Osiyo, everybody. Everybody get enough sugar in you? A little caffeine? A Tuesday. I hear Tuesdays are the new Mondays. So, as most of you guys know, I'm Chris Welch. Most of the people in this room know, but some of the people that are watching live from YouTube may not know who I am a little bit. I am a technical assistant specialist with CCO. I've been here for over 8 years. I've been working with community organizations since day one. You guys have all heard my story of literally the first day onto a community, and that put my feet in the fire, and I've had the passion ever since. So, and today, thanks, man. And today we're going to talk about project management mostly. And we're also going to get into how that can flow into event planning. All of us have to do events, whether it's fundraisers or a community event or design programs for our community. Structure projects. The information I'll give you guys today will flow into every in your organizations when planning a program, when trying to maintain a program, and from the planning all the way to the implementation. Some of this stuff might be a little bit over your head. I'm just going to tell you guys that right now. If you got a chance to get the packet, because of that, I have put sample templates in there for you for these things. Whether it's your WBS or your PMP, your project management plan, it'll give you a step-by-step guide on how to do one of these for these type of projects. I've done more than 50 community infrastructure projects in the Cherokee communities over the last 8 years. I've worked with people in this room, just like Jack. Jack and I have worked many times on infrastructure projects. Lorraine, Rocky Mountain, Chewy. We've all worked very hard. I mean, you can ask anybody in this room, there's blood, sweat, and tears that goes into this, doesn't it? Time. You really have to dedicate yourself to do something like that. But it's worth it to us, right, Jack?
Yes, it is.
The end result is worth the pain that you have to go through to do this because it's benefiting others. And that's why we do what we do. That's why we work as a community organization trying to help other people, right? Just think of our folks in Houston right now. They need people like us. They're the reason we exist. They need our help, and we want to help them. A little bit of ground rules before we get started. I always say start and finish on time, but it is Cherokee Nation, so we will start on Indian time. As always. Be respectful. Please silent off all cell phones or tablets if you have those. If you need to take a phone call, please just get up and go outside and take it if you need to. No need to worry about bothering the training. I do ask that you participate in discussions. That's not mandatory. If you're uncomfortable with that, you won't have to. If you guys want to, I have some note cards up here. If you want to ask me a question that I can answer for you after the session, please write it down on your note cards, and I'll do my best to try to answer those questions for you guys. There are no wrong answers. I was told this by one of my professors in college. There are no wrong answers, just some are better opinions than others. So don't be afraid to give us your opinion today. And of course, as we always do in these sessions, let's just have fun, okay? We've got food, we're here, might as well have a good time while we're here, right? It's the Cherokee thing to do. Here's a little bit of our agenda. Welcome and introductions. We'll do a little brainstorming this morning about projects. We'll talk about activities and the top 3 activities that you can think of. Top 10 roles for a project manager. We're going to brainstorm some more. Yes, I'm going to make you guys think. That's why I wanted to make sure you guys had enough sugar and caffeine this morning. We're going to talk about PMP, which is a project management plan and that process. A little video over this. Then we'll talk briefly about a work breakdown structure. That's a little bit more if you get the basics down of project management. It's a simple organizational chart breakdown and kind of give you a guide of where to go. I did put a template of that in your packet today so you guys can look at that. We'll talk about top 5 project planning keys, key points to remember, the top 10 steps to effective event planning. We'll build your budget, and then at the end, of course, we're going to talk about briefly a little bit about event planning and things to consider whenever you go get ready to do a big event that we all have to do. So, what we want to get out today. Want to get a better understanding of what project management is and how we can use it in our organizations. How we will identify what project management tools are and how to put them to work for us. Not every tool will work for every organization. Okay, keep that in mind. We will identify our stakeholders and why we need them. What are the risks and how do we eliminate them, and how to manage an event while having fun. That's the biggest thing, is to have fun with this, guys. And I'm just going to tell you guys this from the get-go. No matter how much you fill these templates out, no matter how much you think you put a great plan together, It's never going to go 100% as planned. And we're going to talk about how we can adjust for those plans today. They even have a formula on how to identify the time frames by adding in failures into it. We'll talk about that today. So keep in mind, there's never a perfect plan. It never goes 100% right. I've been doing this for almost 9 years. I'm yet to have one go completely 100% the way I planned it to go. You're always going to have variables. Things are going to happen. Life happens. The world happens. You have to adjust to those things, okay? But before we go any further, I want to hear from you guys just real fast. What do you guys hope? What is something that you guys hope to get out of today? TA hours?
How to do it effectively.
How to do it effectively? Okay, get the message out. Telling your story. Okay. What else?
She stole my effectively, so I'm going to add efficiently.
Efficiently. All right.
Not the same thing.
No, it's not. Okay.
Can you help me build a structure? I know it's just not a guideline.
Mm-hmm.
Build a structure that delineates, but sometimes it's very difficult.
How to develop that structure, okay? Whenever I think of that, John, I think about, maybe you guys ever bought that do-it-yourself furniture, you know, from Walmart, IKEA, and those places? What if they gave you that big box of stuff and no directions on how to put it together? Right? It's kind of like what we do with our organizations, is it not? If we don't put the plan together, how is anybody else supposed to know how to carry that plan out? Exactly. It's just a big box of something. Yeah, and you usually don't have all your parts anyway. Those Swedes, I tell you, they can't count every time I get one. Anything else, guys? What do you hope to get out of this? Sue, you do a lot of planning and project huh?
How to quit.
How to quit. Sue wants to know how to quit. How to say no. Sometimes we will discuss that. Sometimes we cannot overextend ourselves. Okay. Volunteers. Okay. Anybody else?
I would say if things ain't going the way you hope they would go, you always got to have a backup plan.
Backup plan. Absolutely. We'll definitely talk about backup plans today.
Or be flexible, that you can change as you're going along.
Flexibility. Absolutely. And a lot of that will go into adjustments and reevaluating the progress as you go. That's the project manager's responsibility, is to compare your plan to the actual results that you have, and then taking a look at it and being able to adjust to the way things are going. Okay. Anybody else? No?
Person good at putting to clearly what's to be done and being diplomatic about it.
Yeah.
And not authoritative.
Not authoritative. So some strategy
Yes.
to doing this. Okay? Awesome. My goal, guys, the reason I'm doing this right now is my goal here is I want to answer all of these for you before you guys leave today. These are your objectives. I put our own objectives of what I hope you guys get out of today. These are your objectives. These are the things you guys want to get out of this training. And I promise we will cover these. If it's not in the deal, I will spend the time and answer these questions for you by the end of the day. Okay? Let's brainstorm for a minute. A project is a planned set of activities. Okay? A project has a scope. Does anybody know what a scope is? John, can you tell everybody what that is?
Span of authority or influence.
Yes. Span of authority or influence. Project has time, cost, quality, and resource restraints, right? And we've talked about all those things, about identifying resources that we have at our disposal. Same thing with any kind of project that we do. There's always going to be things that you need. And sometimes you have those things, and other times you need to get those things to actually complete the project. Because we all have great ideas, right? Or at least they seem like great ideas. And sometimes people listen to us and sometimes they don't. And then sometimes we think, man, that was a bad idea after you start to get into it. But that's okay. You can reevaluate. It's good to have that voice, though. As community leaders, you have to have that voice. It is you who is going to be able to change the communities and change the way we do things. Those ideas are what changes the world, right? You think Martin Luther King? Everybody thought he was a crazy person. And he had his dream. He had his idea of how to change the outlook of racism in the United States. Lots of resistance, right? We're still seeing that resistance coming forth today. But he had a dream. And it's people like you who make those dreams happen. John's dream is to get all the homeless men in Tahlequah off the street, have a place for them to go, to rehabilitate, to have a place to sleep, and to have a brighter future again, right? Sue's dream is to make sure that the Cherokee National Treasures are creating a master apprentice program to teach others the culture and the arts of our people. Think about that. Kristen works in education. They want to make sure every Cherokee has that opportunity to get that education that they want or they need, so they can be as beneficial to the tribe, the community, and to the world as they can. Everybody has a reason. Tell me this. In your guys' mind, what does a project look like in your organizations? What's a project look like for you guys? Okay. Educating others, right? Okay. On correct cultural practices, let's just say that. Okay. All right. What's a project look like for you guys? You guys just got through with the major one. So what's a project look like for your organization?
Well, the project, she basically said it. Like
Yeah.
that, but, you know, also too, is, I mean, we got through that festival, but the project mainly that we're trying to get is a community building, you know, in the center, in our neighborhood.
Yeah.
We can have a place so we can educate, you know, the young folks and people in the community.
Okay. Eva, what's one look like for Chewy?
So our main thing is wrestling with the war fundraiser.
Yeah. So it's more of the for fundraising.
Yeah.
Okay. Because you guys already have the building, so. Okay, Rusty, what's it look like for you guys out there in Sync?
One word, vision.
Vision. Okay. We all have to have a vision. But the most important thing is we have to be able to tell people what our vision is.
Chris,
Yes.
I can't correct your traditional.
Okay. Traditional. Here we go. Gotcha. John, what's a...
I like what you do.
Yo, absolutely. What is something that looks like for Tahlequah Men's Shelter? What's a project look like for you guys?
What does it look like? We're not supposed to be honest, right?
Just tell us what it looks like, John. You know they're watching at home, right?
You do.
Okay. Sustainability. Is that what project looks like for you?
There are a lot of other words that I would use. I don't want to characterize it.
Okay.
I really don't.
No problem. Anything that you would like to add to that?
Being involved with the Orphans for Helping, our organization is very informative. We put a lot of hard work into it, and getting it coordinated. So there's a lot of involvement with us being a huge family.
Mhm.
So I see it as a unity,
Unity. Okay.
solidarity. You know,
Okay.
gathering of people together with the
Okay. With the goal. Absolutely. And that's how we attract people into our organizations, isn't it? We look for like-minded people like us, people that believe in the same things that we do. Cherokee Elders, what's a project look like for you guys? You guys have done so many over the time, so.
To me, I like the vision you've got up there, but,
Yeah.
you know, I tend to look at things long-term.
Uh-huh.
We serve a lot of people in various ways, and our facility is something I concentrate on because
Yeah.
we're not
Long term.
situated like I think we should be to do the best job.
Absolutely.
We have a lot of things we need to do yet.
And here's the thing, guys. And I tell people this all the time in true leadership. You're never satisfied in true leadership.
That's right.
A true leader is always growing. A true leader always wants more. A true leader always wants to mentor others to want more. We're never satisfied. We'll never be satisfied with what we have because in our hearts we know there's more people that we need to help. There's more that we can be doing. And that's why we sit in these classes like this. This is why we learn. This is why we write for grants. This is why we do what we do. We want to continue to grow so we can help the community grow. We'll never reach that self-actualization. Real leaders never reach that. For the simple reason, we will always grow. We will always continue to try to learn, and we'll always try to do better. So keep that in mind. The greatest leaders never actually hit the mark that they were looking for. It's about the journey, guys.
I won't live long enough to reach mine. Go like that.
Weber's Falls, how about you guys?
Well, we're in the midst of one right now.
Okay.
We've got a big thing coming up in October where Weber's Falls is going to be recognized at the end of the water route for the Trail of Tears.
Awesome.
We will have the National Park Service, the National Trail of Tears Association, and we're hosting.
Absolutely.
So we're coming up with how we're going to do it, and who's going to do what.
Absolutely.
and all that. But we will be recognized as an official Trail of Tears passport.
That's fantastic.
Passport.
That's great.
So ours is just preserving history.
Preserving history. Okay. Okay, great. I was thinking I don't know her name yet, so I wasn't going to make a fool of myself.
We're kind of starting over. Sue Fine was our leader.
Yeah, absolutely. I met Sue many years ago.
Yeah, that was my mom, and so we're just kind of starting over.
Starting over.
Figuring out what we're doing.
Hey, starting over. Huh? That's a good thing. That is a good thing. We heard from Sue. How about you guys with Adair County Boys and Girls?
I think anything that we do is focused on helping the youth in our community.
Okay, youth. No more needs to be said than that. Youth. And how about Orco? It seems like you guys are always in the middle of a project, but what's a project look like for you guys? Kind of tell everybody what a project looks like for your organization.
Right now, we're still working on completing the women's shelter that
Mm-hmm.
we started a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
It's getting closer all the time, but like you said, a lot of that is time, getting things done.
Absolutely. You guys mostly are infrastructure as of right now, but once you guys are in infrastructure stage, but once this infrastructure is done for you, that's when your programs are going to come. That's when the community service is going to come for your organization. They are. They truly are. They really are. Awesome, guys. I love all this. Can you guys kind of look at this list? Okay, we have education. We've got infrastructure. They're working towards getting a community center. Fundraising, vision for their organization, long-term plan to continue going. I mean, they're an organization that's been around for a while, so they are going to continue to grow for the future. Preserving history, starting over, starting your organization basically all over again. New set of rules, new goals, new everything. Youth. Infrastructure. Look at this, guys. Look at the diversity of this list. Look at how many things that we're all trying to do in the communities that are different. The good thing is this material today can help you guys plan those out. Help you guys give you that roadmap that you're looking for to try to help you set those goals so you guys can try to reach for them and achieve them. That's what's great about the material today. Project management, definition of this is the art of organizing. It's leading, reporting, and completing a project through people, right? We can't do it on our own. We can't do it. You think my beloved Chicago Cubs would have won the World Series with just Chris Bryant last year? No. And I just had to say that because Eva is sitting here today. We're in first place, by the way, Eva. You can't do this alone. There might be one project manager, but there's other people that you need to depend on, people you trust, like-minded people that you need by your side to help you manage, create these plans, and to fulfill these projects. You can't do it alone. Just a little bit of stuff to kind of give you guys a broadened idea of what project management really is. A project is a planned undertaking. You have to spend some time in the planning process before you actually get started. Yeah, it's that way. You guys are smaller, rural area, grassroots organizations. That will be the norm for you. But you're going to have the same 4, 5, if you're lucky, 10 people that are there to help plan. 2 over here. Yeah. Yeah, usually that's the way it is. That's the way it is. But identifying resources, those are your resources. Those are the people you know that you can depend on at all times. And then it's up to all of you after that to try to recruit, try to bring people in, try to let people know what you do, to try to attract them to the same like-minded goal that you have. Okay. A project manager is a person who causes things to happen, right? You need that person and before you choose that person, make sure the person's able to actually do the job. If you have a scatterbrained person who can't really ever get anything together, is that going to make a good project manager? Some of you guys have been through my Why People Do What They Do training about the personalities. Find you a gold personality, a structure, an organized person who likes to sit there and organize and plan and do all these things. Identify the right type of person for the role. Just don't throw someone in there because they're available. If they're an orange, Lord help you, because there's no telling what's going to happen. Project management is causing a planned undertaking to happen. For those of you who have been able to actually be successful with a project, what did that look like for you guys? Jack, what did that look like? What was the process like?
I still don't understand.
Like any of your projects that you guys have set out to do, what has that looked like for you guys? Was there planning to beginning? Did you run into issues? Did things go the way you wanted them to?
They did. But once things got rolling, it went pretty good after that.
What would you say the hardest part is?
Well, getting started is the hardest part.
Yeah.
Getting things going.
Absolutely. I always try to compare it to someone just learning to drive a 5-speed at first and trying to learn how to use the clutch, right? So they do okay once they get it going, but it's getting that car through the first gear before.
Trying to fit all our wants into our budget.
Yes. And that's another thing you have to balance. What are wants versus needs? What are your immediate needs to things that we would just love to have?
You're going to have to leave something out because you have to prioritize.
Yes, you do.
If you want something bad enough, you see if you can fund it on your own.
Absolutely.
Like that.
Yeah.
Well healed, but we can't fund a whole lot, but in our instance, we were able to
Yeah.
do something.
That's great. Yes, that happens a lot, guys. Let's do it.
The best project that turns out right is when you partner with someone else. When you go in and do an event and you ask another person to help you with that event, that's where it always looks best for us.
Okay.
But you have to be able to be the kind of person who can take advice to do because they're not going to agree with everything you want to do.
Mm-hmm. Very true. Compromises have to happen. They really do. Just like in a marriage, within a board of directors, or anything, any kind of thing that deals with a relationship of any kind. Compromises have to happen. You have to find the common ground within the organization. I want you guys to do something for me. Take a couple of minutes. I want you to think of 3 things, 3 attributes that you think would make a great project manager. Things that you would look for in somebody. And then we'll discuss those things. Give you guys a couple of minutes to think about it. I am. Just things that you would look for whenever trying to find somebody that you feel would be competent in being a project manager. Anybody need more time? All right. Somebody give me one of yours. Let's start with you, Joe.
I put down one who's able to put a project together, and that he's able to care about
Okay.
what he's doing.
That's the most important thing you said right there, was care. Anybody else? Eva?
Someone that would be there every time.
Someone that's dependable.
Yes.
Okay. Rusty?
Goal-oriented, problem solver, motivated, and people skills.
Okay. Which one, if you had to pick one, which one's most important?
Problem solver.
Problem solver? Absolutely. Okay. Kristen, what would you say? What's the number one thing that you had? Most important. That's not already listed. A communicator? Okay. John, what was your number one? Or something that, if it's already up there, something else that you think you can add?
It may be similar to one you have up there, but willing.
Willing, okay. Absolutely. Can you really depend on somebody that doesn't really want to do it? They won't have any passion in it, right? Well, what's your number one? Confident? Absolutely. And I will just say a disclaimer on that. It's always great to have someone who's confident but not arrogant at the same time. Okay. Organized? Okay. How about you guys? Come up with anything different?
I was thinking about somebody that has expertise and knowledge.
Knowledge? Absolutely.
I had someone who has a clear understanding of the plan.
Okay. Clear understanding. Okay. Linda?
Flexibility and perseverance.
Flexibility, okay. Absolutely. George? That was part of yours? Okay, gotcha. Sue? Okay, willing to listen. We've got willing already. Great. And we'll add to listen to that. Okay. A go-getter? Everyone needs a go-getter. I guess that's right. I've never spelled go-getter before in my life.
Energetic, disciplined,
Okay.
persuasive.
Energetic. That kind of goes with that, but absolutely we got to have somebody like that. And like I've said before, those of you that have been through the personality thing, you know your go-getter is always an orange personality. A freedom type person, somebody that loves to go out and make things happen. Action, freedom to be on their own and do things the way that they want to do them. I can in the future. It's online, but yeah, I can.
Well, the materials aren't there. So
Okay, absolutely. I'll send you the materials if you want them, John.
I would love
Oh, absolutely. It's a great training. It really, really is. Take a look at our list, guys. Someone who cares, someone that's dependable, a problem solver, a communicator, willing to listen, willing to actually do the position to begin with, someone that's confident but not arrogant, organized, knowledgeable, has a clear understanding of the project, the people that are flexible, people that will compromise, a go-getter, someone that's energetic. Wow. Does anybody have anybody that fits all 12 of those in your organization? Kind of shooting for the moon, aren't we?
You need somebody that's honest.
Somebody that's honest. Absolutely. Think about this, guys. Remember how I told you it takes more than just one person to be able to do this? Look at all these attributes that we're looking out for one person to have. That's why it takes a team. It's a team effort to do all of these things. Even though you have a project manager, somebody that tries to keep everything organized and going, it takes everybody contributing to make these type of projects and these kind of things happen.
These kind of people who usually spread themselves kind of thin and are
They are.
involved in other organizations.
Absolutely. It is. I mean, I work in the communities as well, American Cancer Society and different things, and I probably do spread myself thin on a lot of things like that. But the thing is, I want to continue to do that because I want to help as many people as I can. So, top 10 roles of a project manager. Let's talk about this for a minute. Project manager will take ownership of a whole project, okay? They will take ownership. If something goes wrong, they'll be the first one to say, that's my mistake. If something goes right, a great project manager will give the credit to everybody else that was involved. Okay. There shouldn't be any I, me, mine. You guys sound like all the little seagulls from Finding Nemo. Mine. You know? You don't want to sound like that. A true leader, a true project manager will take the responsibility when things go wrong, but give credit to others when things go right. That's just part about being a leader. You have to be proactive as a project manager, not reactive. Don't wait for things to go wrong. Joe talked about having backup plans. You have to have other plans to happen. Okay, if this happens, we may have to do this. Have that plan ready. That way you're prepared when those things happen. Okay, always have a backup plan. Adequately plan the project. Okay, and we're going to talk about how we'll do that with our WBS structure here in a little bit, and we'll talk about how you guys can plan that out, but it makes it visible for others to see, because if you want others to see your goals, to see your plans, they have to be able to see it, right? What's the biggest mistake that most of us make when we come up with an idea or a plan? We don't think it through, and we don't clearly describe it to other people. We know what it's supposed to look like up here because we're the one that imagined it, but we don't always effectively communicate it on paper so everyone else can see it too. Because not everybody lives up here, only you live up here. You need to be able to tell what your plans are to everyone else. And this type of format will help you guys with that. Is authoritative, not authoritarian, right? What do you guys look for in somebody that's authoritative? Kristen, what do you look for in a boss or somebody that's supervising or over a project whenever you work on something? Decisive but flexible. John? You? Okay, direct, be very clear, communicate exactly what they want. To be the leader, take responsibility. How about you, Daryl? Same? Clear? Sue? Clear? Do what they say they're going to do. That's always a big one. Transparency. No closed door meetings, you know. No secret whispering going along. That sort of thing. Linda, George? How do you like George to be? You like him?
Yeah, I like it too.
For those of you guys that don't know, George and Linda are husband and wife, so I like to pick on them just a little bit because they do work in this organization together. But George might be president, but Linda is she's in charge.
Jack likes me. He can't do this.
Okay, so he kind of has to like you, right? At least at family reunions, anyway. Another good one is that they're decisive. You guys just said that. Someone that's decisive. Someone that's going to make the decision. You can't have an indecisive leader. You cannot. When those situations come up, that a decision has to be made. You can't have someone riding the fence. You've got to be able to make a decision. Whether it's right or wrong, you have to be able to make that decision when time comes down because they're looking to you to make that decision. You're their leader. Good communicator. We've said that many times today. A good communicator. Bases decisions by data and facts, not informed optimism. You can't just hope for the best, right? We can hope for the best, but we need some analytics. We need some data to compare to say, okay, is this where we need to go? How can we increase this? Is our optimism meeting the data that we have? Is this really going to happen? Or are we just shooting for the stars here? You have to be realistic with yourself. Lead by example with sound judgment. Again, as the project manager, or if you have multiple project managers that are working together as a team, you have to lead by example. Everyone's looking to you for this project. Again, if things go wrong, it's your responsibility to take the blame for that. You're the leader. That's what leaders do. Do we take all the credit for it whenever we do a great job and it goes right? It's okay to take some credit, but you need to pick up those that are around you. Give them the confidence too, knowing that they were a part of this, so they'll be a part of the organization going forward. Is personally motivated. Do you need someone in a project management position or a leadership position that you constantly have to motivate and say, you can do this, you're the right person for this, I just know it. Should you have to do that? No. They should know the goal. They should be passionate and excited about the goal and do just about anything they can to help fulfill that goal and to lead the organization that way. Here's the hardest part for a project manager is being a diplomatic delegator. Whether we try to keep all that from happening in our organizations because it's obviously because the IRS tells us that it has to stay out. It's very difficult, right? It's even more difficult whenever you have to make those decisions without mentioning the reason for those said decisions. But whether or not the project manager believes that that's the right thing to do, or if that's against their belief, they know what they have to do. So it's great for a project manager to be able to make those decisions and do those things because they know that they have to do them. Okay. Anybody have any questions about that? Anything you guys want to add to any of that? Did the experts leave anything out on this?
No, but it made me think about something. It's the ability to tell somebody to go to hell and have them have good expectations for the trip.
Yeah, it is. It can be that way. It can be that way. Absolutely. Yeah. Sure.
And I'm trying to figure out which category this might fit in, but.
Sure.
And I've always liked Stephen Covey.
Oh, absolutely.
Begin with the end in mind.
Yep.
Where would, and that's goal setting, is what that is.
Yep.
Where, I don't know, if you don't have goals or you don't
Mm-hmm.
put into your project in mind.
I think it.
How do you,
I think it goes into 3.
Direction.
Adequately plans the project. I mean, because you plan the project with you basically begin with the end result in mind. I've listened any long road trips. I'm the world's worst about listening to leadership books on Audible. So I've listened to Dr. Covey several times and Simon Sinek and all those. Those are my favorite people to listen to whenever I'm driving somewhere. But yes, absolutely. I think that's where that would fit into that. Rusty is going to be adequately planning the project because you're going to plan the project with the end goal in mind. So absolutely.
I also think that something that is also a role of the project manager that you have to be able to accept criticism.
Yes, absolutely. And that's probably the hardest thing that we all have difficulty with. It's hard to accept that criticism. It really is. It's hard to accept it because, for the most part, you've put a lot of time, energy, possibly money, sweat, and tears into this type of project. And for someone to criticize and say you're not doing enough or not doing well enough, yeah, it's hard. And that's one of those things you kind of just, another thing you take with a grain of salt, okay? Take it as, take the criticism as something to reflect on. And take a look at yourself. If you're not meeting the expectations of the people around you, take a look at that and see how you can adjust and how you can make things better going forward. So don't dwell on the criticism. Use the criticism. If you've made a mistake, it's not about whether you made a mistake or not. It's what you've learned from that mistake going forward. So always keep that in mind. Absolutely, that's great. Anybody have any stakeholders in your organizations? Sure you do. People you serve, absolutely. What's another stakeholder? What's that? The tribe, absolutely. CCO for most of you are a stakeholder. If you receive a grant from us or education or anything like that. What's a stakeholder for Weber's Falls, guys?
Well, one would be the city council.
City council, absolutely. And you just mentioned the Trail of Tears. They're very much a stakeholder for your organization. Who's a stakeholder for the Boys and Girls Club? Absolutely. BGCA, absolutely. Why do we need stakeholders? Why do we care about stakeholders? This is our project, not theirs. Why do we care about what they think?
Well, they fund us, they motivate us.
Absolutely. They believe in you, right? Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's right. By definition, it's a person or group of people who have a vested interest in the success of an organization and the environment in which the organization operates, right? Why do you think CCO or the Cherokee Nation makes those investments into your programming? Is it because they just like you real well? Because Lorraine makes the best pineapple upside down cake? Is that why they do it? They believe that you're going to make the Cherokee Nation a better place. They believe it's an investment for them. It's an investment into the people, an investment into the community. That's why they're a stakeholder for you. Yes, they believe in you, but they also believe in the work that you're going to do for the people. Any stakeholder is that way, whether you receive a grant from the federal government or a foundation or volunteers that come to help you. They're stakeholders too, right? Because they're helping you free of charge.
Also stakeholders, our
Who's-
donors.
Yes, donors, absolutely. Absolutely. Jack's modest about it, but they've received help from somebody that everybody's seen on TV, Jim Beavers. Great guy. Most of you guys remember he was Bobby on Supernatural. He found them on the internet and said, hey, I'm going to do a t-shirt fundraiser for these guys, and he made a donation to the organization just by finding them on YouTube or somewhere.
When he become a member, he was just honored to be kept.
Our stakeholders are people that we may have never even met, right?
He was Cherokee, part Cherokee.
Yeah.
If you're part Cherokee, you're all Cherokee to me.
That's great. But absolutely, stakeholders are basically anyone who has an interest in the success of our programming. Okay, so that kind of open your mind up to that. Let's talk about this for a minute. Sue, who are some of your stakeholders for CNTA?
Well, most of all the treasurers, but first, there are those who act CCO,
Mm-hmm.
tribal council,
Absolutely.
Cherokee Heritage Center. So wanting to partner with us now to start a community project tonight to our schools.
Okay, awesome. She said the Heritage Center, CCO. She talked about the Cherokee National Treasures themselves. Okay. How about you? Who are some of the others for you guys? The Kiwanis, United Way, City of Stillwell, the schools. How about the parents? The parents too, right? The parents, guardians, grandparents, anybody whose youth are able to take part in that. They obviously have an interest because they're allowing their children to be there. Absolutely. Linda George, who are some of your other stakeholders besides the Trail of Tears and... Yeah, members, obviously. Yeah, they're there for a reason, right? Because they believe in what you guys are doing.
Can't think of anything.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. And we heard from the elders. How about you, John?
I've got a whole list here. I don't have the window.
Yeah.
I think one of the important ones that nobody's mentioned is your board of directors.
Board of directors, absolutely. They're supposed to believe the mission more than anybody else, right? Kristen, who do you think?
I work in education services for the College Resource Center, and I think our primary stakeholders are tribal citizens
Absolutely.
and the colleges and universities,
All right. College, universities, the tribal citizens that look to you guys for help.
and primarily the tribal council as well, because we're serving their constituents.
Yep, tribal council. Farrell, how about you guys?
Probably the main thing that I would say the stakeholders are the ones who have a need.
Mm-hmm. Those that you serve, right?
Yes. Then the support of the Cherokee Nation, making it possible for the tribal members, letting them be the leaders of what they can do in the community, and bringing in the others that need help.
Absolutely.
How to get it.
Great. Eva, how about Chewy?
Our board members and you all, Cherokee Nation.
Cherokee Nation, board members, Rusty?
All the ones everybody said, plus, we use various churches.
Yeah.
Community and youth are our primary ones, but we also have a veterans component to ours as well. So we go with veterans with claims and stuff, because there's myself, so.
Absolutely.
It's, and the Cherokee Nation, even each individual citizen expects us to be good stewards of the money, so.
It's got to be your constituents, the people that you serve are always going to be those that have the greatest stake. They might not have the most money for donors and things like that, but they have the greatest interest in your organization. Joe, how about you? About CBIHP?
CBIHP, I would say would be Cherokee Nation for their assistance and say, you have to, we may not have a lot of money in our organization because, we're just getting going, but we have some leaders, which is Ty and Anita, top of the board, that just, I would say, fantastic what they do.
Absolutely.
Plus the volunteers that we have, the family that we have that help us, that volunteer.
Yeah. And why do they do those things, do you think?
Because they love what we do.
They love it, right? They've bought into the mission. They've bought into the goals that have been set already. And it's the same for all your organizations. You always attract like-minded people to help you achieve these goals, right?
I think with all of us, we all serve in different purposes, but we all gearing toward the same thing, and that's serving the youth, serving our communities, and preserving history.
Absolutely. Love it. The book tells us here's some typical stakeholders. People that sponsor us, sponsor our events, sponsor our programming, your funding body, customers, or the folks that you're serving, basically. Some of your suppliers. I mean, we have to get supplies from somebody, right? The end user or the end result, the people that are being served by this, the entire community, partners, volunteers, all those type of people. These are all things you have to take into account whenever you try to identify the resources that you may need to complete your projects. You need to identify your stakeholders in the community. Here's how you do that. You have to identify them. Tammy, a few years ago, if you guys remember, did a training with you guys over mapping your asset mapping, how to identify the resources in your community that you have available to you, and how those fit into the end goal of what your end goal of your organization is. To draw that big strategic plan, but identify what you have at your disposal and what you still need to obtain to complete the project. You need to assess the needs. Next, after you identify those stakeholders, assess the needs that you still have, okay? Then you need to define your actions. And by that, what I mean is, how are we going to fulfill the needs that we have? Okay, we need to have a fundraiser. We want to do Frito chili pies, but we don't have enough money to get all the corn chips. What can you guys do? Go ask for donations. Pass around a hat around the room until you get enough money for corn chips. I mean, it can be anything. But you need to have a plan. Define how you're going to come up with that money to have that fundraiser that you need. Put that plan into action and define it for everyone so everyone can see it, hear it, visualize it in their own mind. Establish effective communication channels. This is part where we all fall down, is establishing effective communication channels. Today's day and age, what's the easiest way to communicate with everyone? Text, email, Facebook. Lucky for nonprofit organizations, there's some apps out there. There's one called Basecamp that you guys can use. It's a communication app. You can put it on your smartphone. You can put a question in there to go off every day at 5 o'clock that says, what did you do today? Or are there any issues we need to talk about? And then everybody can just kind of message each other and everybody's in on the conversation. There's lots of different ways we can do that. I've talked to several people about changing the way that they do, because we have, most of us have intergenerational, right? We have multiple lists of generations, and the generations are all different. We all communicate a different way. We do things a different way. We like things a different way. Should we all expect them to adjust to our needs? Or as leaders, should we adjust to their needs? Yeah, we need to adjust to their needs. The greatest thing is, it's out there. There's a how-to video on YouTube for everything. So if you don't know how to use something, just YouTube it, Google it. There's something out there that'll teach you guys how to do it real fast, and it'll make things more effective for you guys. We have to adjust. Again, what John said, we have to adjust. Flexibility, we have to be able to make those adjustments to be as productive as we can be. Gather feedback. That's another big one. Gather feedback. Who hates gathering feedback? Everybody. Why do we hate it so much?
Because it's often critical.
Critical. Might hurt our feelings a little bit. Might give us numbers that we don't want because we're trying to prove a point somewhere. Right? It may not back us up always. You're just praying that it does. But we have to have it. How else do we know how to evaluate the project and our stakeholders and to see where we are? Where did those adjustments have to come? We don't know until we evaluate ourselves and gather that feedback so we can make those adjustments. Something we have to do, and just try not to get so upset about it. Monitor and review your progress. Again, project managers should be doing that about once a week. Once they get the numbers back, every once to 2 weeks, they should be taking a look at it and saying, okay, where are we falling down? What's not coming to plan? If you see things or it's going to push things back in the future, evaluate those things every 7 to 14 days. Take a look at them and see where you're at and see if you need to make some adjustments. See if there's a couple more phone calls you need to make. If a supplier's not coming through, have a backup plan. Again, always have backup plans. And then again, repeat. If you guys will pull out the big thick thing in your packet there, I'm not going to go through this step by step. I'm going to go over this and kind of give you guys a broad range of this. This is an actual template for a project management plan and what that looks like. This is a little bit more than what this class is going to be today, but I did want you guys to have a vision of what one would look like for a major project. If you guys got a chance to ever go into that sort of thing. If you guys get into a major project, now you've got a template to go off of, and you guys can try to put one together with some of the materials that you guys learn over time. But a project management plan is a master document for a project, and it includes this. It includes the objectives, the scope, and the deliverables. Okay? What are we trying to accomplish? How are we going to accomplish this? And who do we need to accomplish this with? Your stakeholders, internal and external stakeholders would be the next thing that you'll talk about. Work to be done, which we'll talk about the WBS, the structure of that here in just a little bit. I've given you guys a template. It basically looks like an organizational chart. Those are basically the different areas. These are the things we're going to do. These are the things we're going to do. And you'll put end dates of goals of end dates on those, basically. Project resources, a project cost. We all have to have a budget, right? We have to have money to do this project, and we need to keep a close eye on that project budget, because what happens with where's the downfall of a lot of major projects? Cost more than you expect. You have to stay on top of that, okay? Especially when things start to go wrong. I mean, have you guys ever watched, what's the show, Property Brothers? They always run into that one I-beam that they have to replace, you know. It's going to blow the whole budget. The whole contingency's gone. You know, now she doesn't get the marble countertops that she wanted or the beautiful tile. Now they're mad at him, you know, like it was his fault that they bought a rotten house. Those things are going to happen. You guys are going to buy a rotten house. You're going to have to replace an I-beam. Like I said, things never go to plan all the time. You're always going to run into something is going to happen that you're going to have to adjust for, and you have to stay on the budget, because if you run out of money, what happens? The project stops, right? Take a look at the Native American Center in Oklahoma City. Big plans, millions of dollars were going into this. Well, they overextended themselves, and now they've been at a standstill for many years. Now you have this big, beautiful outside structure built and nothing on the inside of it. But they're working on that.
I heard this morning on the news that the Chickasaw Nation is going to rescue them.
That's good. That's good. I know that the state had originally decided that they were going to help them, but next thing you know, we were $900 million in the hole, and that wasn't happening. So it's great that someone is trying to help them out up there. We've toured the place before, Tammy, Brad. It's beautiful once it's done. Right now it's just a big open shell. But it's the plans and the ideas, and they're great about telling you what it's going to look like once they're done and what it's going to be used for. They haven't lost their end result yet, even though they mismanaged the budget. They still have the goal, the dream is still alive. So keep that in mind. Your schedule, a project schedule. And that can be tricky, and I'm going to talk to you guys here in a little bit. There's a formula called the PERT formula. I'll talk to you guys about this, how you can kind of set your schedule and set an end date for these things. Procurement, contract strategy. If you guys have to do any contract work, make sure that you have a good draft of a contract when you're making relationships with an outside vendor, especially if you're paying them and they're giving you some service. Make sure that you're backed up. Unfortunately, in the construction business, things can get a little tricky sometimes. Sometimes not all contractors stick to their word. And we sometimes expect more out of them than what they expected to do. So we need to clearly line those out before you hire them, before you start that project. I think Jack will be the first to attest to that.
Yep, all about that.
Risk management. Does anybody tell me why we need to talk about risk management? Especially if we're doing infrastructure?
Well, there are things like safety.
Absolutely. And we're not just talking about the risk to the organization. We're talking about the people that we serve. It's a risk. There's a reason there's ADA compliancy for the safety of the people in a public place. Liability insurance on anything that you guys do. What happens more than anything these days through our court systems? Civil lawsuits, right? Everyone's trying to make a cheap buck these days. You have to protect yourself, especially as a nonprofit organization. They might not be able to actually sue your organization, but do you know who they can sue? The board of directors. So keep that in mind. You guys have to protect yourself. So have a risk management plan. Get with professionals that can help you on your plans. Have them take a look. Put all those safety guidelines in there. Make sure you stick to those. Do what you have to do. Don't try to cut corners. Don't try to make things more difficult on yourself going forward. You have to protect yourself and protect. You're not just protecting the organization, but you're protecting the individuals that serve on that organization. And if you make it safe for everybody, then you've done all you can to make sure people are safe. Accidents are going to happen. They're just going to happen, guys. We can't do anything about that, but we can try to plan and protect ourselves from the get-go. Quality management. That's a difficult one, quality. Usually whenever we hire someone to do something, we're expected it's going to be quality, right? Is that always what happens? No, not always. It's up to us. We need to have someone that can look. Get with them. Make sure that they're doing things the right way. And if they're not, make them start over and fix it. Don't let it just go and say, well, I didn't want to say anything.
I think that's what happened with the courthouse in Cedar County.
I'm not repeating that. Change management. If things aren't going right, you need to be able to change the management. If the person that you picked was a great person to pick it, but 4 other organizations also picked them to do something, and things aren't getting done, you have to be able to make that change. But you need to be able to do it in a right way, guys. You don't go in and don't Donald Trump it and say, you're fired. Go in, have the conversation. I don't think you have enough time for this project, or if these things have gone, I think we're going to have to make a change. We're going to have to make a transition to someone else who has more time. No matter what the issue may be. And it may be that they just forgot to do a couple of things. In large projects, you can't have those risks. You can't have those failures happen. You have to be able to stay on top of these things. Because one mistake can lead to another, and next thing you know, you've got apparently the Adair County Courthouse situation happening. So make sure you follow through on these steps, guys. Protect yourself. This is all about creating a plan to tell others what you're trying to do, give you a roadmap, and protect the organization for the future. Okay? I want to show you guys a little video. I always like to do this, and I always know Lorraine's going to be here on Tuesday morning, so I like to throw a video in here for her. All the stuff I talked about, I know it's a lot to take in, and this, I have to be honest, this training was difficult for me to design and come up with, because as someone who does project management, I think it's all important, but I know it's a lot to take in all at once. This is usually like a lot of college courses, but I do want you guys to actually see it with your own eyes of what I've been talking about.
inside the world of the project manager. By the end of this video, you'll have a deeper understanding of what project management is all about. A good way to understand project teams is to imagine a talented crew of sailors. Each sailor is a resource. The skipper is the project manager, and the voyage itself represents the project. On board a naval vessel, every senior salty sailor has a special job to do. Maybe one has excellent eyesight, so he rises in the ranks and becomes the ship's lookout. Another has a talent for understanding maps, so he gets promoted to navigator. Likewise, each project team member, aka resource, is a specialist. Unlike the other members of the team, the project manager is not a specialist. PMs must wear many different hats and adapt to a variety of different roles. Let's take a look at the 4 main things project managers do over the lifespan of a project. The first job of a project manager is perhaps the most important one, planning. Before setting sail, the ship's captain pulls out a map and lays out waypoints. Waypoints may include friendly ports, lighthouses, navigational buoys, or other important landmarks along the way to the final destination. Project managers, on the other hand, use tasks to plot the course. Each assigned task has a specific beginning and end date. If it turns out that a resource is taking longer than expected to complete his or her assigned task, the project manager recalculates and comes up with a new time estimate, or tries to figure out some other way to meet the deadline. A PM's second job is communication. Captain of a naval vessel must know how to talk to many different audiences. Christopher Columbus, for example, was able to sweet-talk Queen Isabella into funding his voyage to the New World. But he was also tough enough to keep his crew in line while out at sea. In the same way, project managers must be silver-tongued speakers. That is, they must be able to tailor their tone of voice and diction to suit the situation. Every individual team member needs to be treated differently depending on their personal workaholic. The experienced communication needs and job is troubleshooting. If the ship gets blown from the storm, and assign crew members ship repair duties after the winds die down. Leaks need to be stopped up. Manager must identify and solve any problems that may occur. In the project management business, we call problems issues. Project managers treat an issue just like an ordinary task. They pick out a resource to handle the issue and track progress until the issue is resolved. Last but not least, a project manager's fourth responsibility is prediction. And feeling about an upcoming voyage, it's the captain's responsibility to signify any problems that might arise, or problems that might interfere with progress. It's up to the project. You know the 4 responsibilities of a project manager. You should be well equipped to answer any questions. So don't forget to check out your understanding of what we've learned today. If a project's team is like a ship's crew, the project manager is the captain. The PM draws the indicator. PM tailors his message to suit a wide variety of audiences. As troubleshooter in chief, the PM tackles issues and sees that they're resolved. He pulls out his crystal ball and tries to anticipate everything that will go wrong. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to download the free reference card. We'll go into more detail, and I'll share some tips on for more great info on project management.
Did that help, guys? Okay. All the stuff we kind of talked about. So what is the big thing that you guys got out of that video? Moments? You kind of have to be the problem solver, right? You have to keep a track with everybody, with personal issues and everything else that comes with it, right?
Time management.
Absolutely. Now do you guys see why making this a team effort is so important? It's a lot of pressure to put on one person, right? Okay. Project planning. This is just a definition. Adequate planning leads to the correct completion of work. We've already talked about that today. What happens? Whenever you plan, inadequate planning leads to frustration towards the end of the project, or performance, or even failure. Many of you guys experience this in some of your projects, whether it's a fundraiser or a building, or what are some of the things that happen with you and Chewy?
Our first get together, we didn't have anybody.
I got it. What's that? Sorry, Eva.
When we had our first fundraiser, or it wasn't a fundraiser, just to get together, and nobody came.
And nobody came.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's a simple end into that for Cherokee people. Have food, Eva. Have lots and lots of food.
Yeah.
That always gets me there. Sue, any failures that you guys have happened to you guys with poor planning?
Planning wasn't
us, it's for us, but
Okay. Sure. Wrong information has happened? Absolutely. George, Linda?
Yeah, we're putting up signs for the Trail of Tears deal, and I don't know what's actually going on, what I'm supposed to be doing. To find out, we got to build a pad down there for wheelchair people. That's something that came up.
Hey, there you go. That's bad communication, right?
Yeah.
That things happen. No one has more experience with things not going to plan as Jack has had with some of his building projects. Tell us some of the things that have happened to you, Jack.
Well, we had this project manager that we hired, and then he had some personal problems, and then he had some health problems. Kept delaying this thing. Finally got it straightened out, Things went relatively smooth and quickly then, but it took us so long to get started.
Absolutely.
But we were able to accomplish, the majority of things. We did spend all our money on it.
Yeah.
We had in our budget. And,
What were some of the steps you took while things weren't going to plan?
well, whenever somebody's sick or something, there ain't a whole lot you can do with that.
Yeah.
So we knew we had a certain amount of time, so we just kind of bided our time and see what was going to happen. If at some point, then we were going to have to terminate this and do this on our own. We were
Absolutely.
prepared to do that.
And sometimes you have to make that difficult decision.
So, but as it turns out, things straightened out.
Absolutely. If anybody that's done this type of work, do anyone ever find it easy?
Yeah, it's,
I've been doing it for almost 9 years, and I still find it very difficult every day.
it's always going to be something.
There's always something that happens. There's always something that you don't calculate for. There's always something, contractors taking on more work than they can handle, or...
we did get good quality work out of it when we got it off.
Absolutely. I mean, as most of you guys know, we just finished a project last year, and within 6 months after completion, a tornado wiped it out. So, I mean, you never know what's going to happen, guys. We have to reevaluate the situation and go forward from there. I mean, Mother Nature, obviously down in Houston right now, Mother Nature, she kind of chooses what she's going to do and where she's going to do it without consulting you first. So you have to be ready for anything that's going to happen. Pull out your little handout there, guys. It looks like an organizational chart, basically, your WBS. Basically what this is for. The work breakdown structure is a foundation for effective project planning, costing, and management. That's going to help you break down your goals in the sequences that you need to take as you go down. As you set an end date, set that goal, and you complete it, then you mark it off. If things aren't going to plan, reevaluate that thing, like I told you guys. Stay on track of everything every 7 to 14 days. Take a look at it. Make sure things are still on track. If they're not, make those adjustments. This will keep it in front of you. This structure will keep your eyes open to the goals. We're all human beings here. We're all getting older. We forget things. I forget things all the time. I'm only 36. So our minds sometimes get involved with other things, and sometimes things like that, we just forget some of the small intangibles that are very important to a project, but our mind goes in other directions. Once you have it in front of you, it makes it that much easier to keep up with, keep track of, reevaluate those things. And there's lots of things you could do. How many people have a smartphone in here? How many of you got calendar on there? Use that calendar. Set dates, set times. Have the alarm go off and say, oh man, I got to check on that right now. There's tools. Technology trainings. And we just did over how to use your iPhone and your Android last month, so you can go back and watch that. But set those type of alerts for yourself. If you need a backup, something to remind you, we have tools at our disposal these days to help us do those. Palm Pilots, some people still use those things for time management. There's lots of different ways that we can try to remind ourselves to go back and just look at our structure and look at what we're doing. Keep up with the schedule. Keep up with being able to keep track of things. Yes?
I really like this, but I like using my computer.
Yeah, absolutely.
What type of program would you use this?
Project, Microsoft Projects has all this stuff listed in it. And it usually comes with your Microsoft Office programming. So that's what Microsoft Projects is. If you guys ever wondered what that one software is that you don't know what it's for, that's what Microsoft Projects is for project management and how to structure your programming. Okay, it has a lot of things like this where you can create your budgets. They have all kinds of templates already made. It's a great tool. This is also the foundation on which everything is built. This is what we have to accomplish, and this is our end result. We talked about trying to get the idea from here on paper so it can be seen with other people's eyes. This is how you do it. This is how you do it with this. And like I say, there's other programs out there that are very expensive to buy for this type of work, but Microsoft Projects is just as good as they are and usually comes with your Microsoft Suite, Office, and everything like that. So I really encourage you guys to work on those. And here's just an example: project, task 1, subtask, work package, so on and so on. This is it's almost like an organizational chart. You're just listing your task and how you're going to accomplish said project, okay? Scheduling. How many of you guys do scheduling for your organization? You, Farrell? Anybody else have to do scheduling? Sue? You can start. You fixing to start? Scheduling, that means making a schedule of tasks. These can have a wide variation, okay? You can set all kinds of scheduling. We set scheduling for trainings. We set scheduling for attending board meetings. We set scheduling to have meetings to discuss things that we're going to talk about in the next meeting. That's just Cherokee Nation way. That's how things are. You just adjust to it and you like it. But we schedule things like that all the time. You have to schedule those things. Schedule those meetings with the people that are involved outside of your board meetings. Have those committee meetings. Schedule volunteer work days. Schedule everything. Because what's the biggest thing after making that schedule that you should do?
Action.
Huh?
Put it to
Before
action.
you put it into action. You need to communicate that schedule to the people that need to know about it. Right? I hear all the time, I can't get people to show up. I know no one wants to volunteer. I don't know why. How are we communicating? Making a schedule and putting one post on Facebook and hoping people show up. The sad thing to this, guys, there's no unique answers to do scheduling. People's personal schedule is better than anybody else. I can't give you guys the answers on how to do this. I can just try to give you guys the tools of different things that you guys can use by using the free apps that you can communicate easier with people on your phones. Post it 3 different ways to the same people. I'm the world's worst at that. If I'm going to schedule something, I send an alert to put it on their schedule as a meeting request. Again, I send them an email, post it on Facebook, and I may text them afterwards. Just in case. I don't want to hear every form of your door and say, hey, we're going to this meeting right now. You need to try to cover those bases. Again, plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D. Realistic with your scheduling. Nothing more important for you guys as a nonprofit in being realistic, right? Because these aren't paid members of your organization. They're not employees of your organization. They're not receiving compensation, besides maybe some beans and fry bread every once in a while.
Sure can't fire them.
You can't fire them. You didn't hire them in the first place, right? How do you fire somebody like that? But be realistic. These people are doing one of the greatest things they could do. They're volunteering what? Their time. What's the most important thing in our lives these days? It's time. It's worth more than gold. Because in order for them to be there with you, what are they giving up? Time with their kids, family, giving up personal hobbies that they probably like to do, maybe just some Netflix binging maybe that they're giving up. But you never know. Their time is worth more than money to your organization. So be realistic and be sensitive about their time as well, because their time means a lot to them. Don't waste their time. Okay? Don't have meetings that don't need to be had. If that conversation can happen over the phone, via text, email, however you do it, let that conversation. Don't waste their time. This is the thing here that I found most interesting whenever I was learning about project management, is how to set those deadlines. Everyone always says, oh, we need to set those deadlines. Well, how do you set a deadline? I don't know how long it's going to take this contractor to do this. You ask a contractor how long it's going to take to do something, their answer is always 2 weeks. 6 months later, oh, 2 more weeks. You guys ever remember the movie The Money Pit back in the 80s? That contractor, what he always told Tom Hanks? 2 weeks. He said, how long is this going to take you? 2 weeks. It said 1 year later. How much longer? 2 weeks. It's always their answer. It's always 2 weeks. But this formula here, if you guys notice in your handouts, I gave you guys this formula. There's a whole article over this formula to kind of, so you guys can go back and look at this. But this is a literal formula. This is what project managers use to estimate end dates. Okay? Keep in mind whenever we look at this, you guys didn't know I was going to make you do math today. TM, what that means on our list, that's the most likely time required. The most likely time, that's our best guesstimate, basically. The TO means the most optimistic time required. That's when you'd like to have it. Yep. TP is the most pessimistic time required, the one that's kind of getting you mad just a little bit. Probably like Jack was. Kind of like Jack was back then. So here's the formula, guys. To get your time, your estimated time, take your most optimistic time, okay? Add it to your most, most likely time, and times it times 4. And then add the most pessimistic time to that, okay? Divide it by 6. These are how the professional project managers come up with estimated due dates. This is how they come up with this.
So they had both ends of it, and maybe an average there.
Yep, it's basically an average. These are the things that they put down because they've taken their most optimistic time, the time when, basically the shortest amount of time, this is when you would love to have it done. Taking their most pessimistic time, the time that this is the latest I'm going to let it go. Deadline. It can't go any further than this. And then they find somewhere sort of in the middle. Not really in the middle, but more towards the pessimistic, but somewhere right in there. You guys can use this formula. And I put the article in there so you guys can go back and refer to it. This is one of the coolest tools that I've ever found. And to be honest with you, it really does work. It really does. Ever since I started using this, I was always, when I first started, I was always the TO guy, I wanted the most thought. I was setting goals by the optimum. Well, he said it'll take this much of time, so it's going to happen then. I'll have it done in 3 months, guys. Yeah, not going to happen. Not going to happen. That 3 months usually turns more into a 7 or an 8. Okay? But this will kind of help you guys give you those realistic goals that you can set for yourself just through this formula. Like I say, it's one of my favorite tools that I've learned with doing project management. Project planning key points. Just to recover what we're talking about, we want to recognize that adequate project planning is essential. Produce a sound WBS, set those goals for ourselves. Use the framework, create that PMP plan, that way others can see it. Not so much for the people that are helping you carry out because they already know what your plan is, they already know what the end result is, they know what the goals are. If you've had the meetings and done the scheduling the way you're supposed to. This is for your stakeholders, that PMP plan is. If you want people to be able to see what you want to do, or if you're looking for donors, foundations to give you a grant for this, that's where these visually see what you're going to do and what the end result's going to look like. Right positions to do the right jobs. Just because they're our best friend, does that mean that they should be put over it? If they're not good at kind of here, kind of not? Just because we don't want them mad at us? If you want the project to be successful, put the right people in the right positions and always, always allow enough time. Don't always set your time frames as the optimistic time frames. Use that formula, set realistic end dates for yourself. Allow yourself for plan A, plan B, plan C to happen if things happen, and they will happen. They always happen. Okay. Talk about monitoring and control. I'll just cover these real quick. I'm not going to go real in depth because we basically know how to do these things. We want to monitor against the plan status updates regularly. Again, 7 to 14 days, go back, make sure that things are still on track. Take a factual approach to decisions, okay? Collect that data, analyze where you're at compared to the data to make your decisions from. Just don't shoot from the hip, as they like to say. Identify management action early. If you see there's a problem, take steps to correct that problem before it gets out of hand. Okay? Check that defined controls are being applied. Again, correct those if necessary. And if that means letting go whoever is in charge, that things have gotten that bad, and putting someone else into that role, then those things need to happen. I know those are hard decisions to make, but sometimes they have to happen. Because the overall goal is what we're after, right? We can repair that relationship later. Apply all changes that need to be made. Again, take the action, follow through. This isn't just about planning and being respectful and putting the right team together. This is about creating action. Once we do all this work, then we can put our action into play. This is just a list of some of the things that you can do to do these things. Again, a WBS. When it comes to your cost versus budgeted costs, see where you lie there. Regular progress and meetings with your team. Make sure you have those regularly, but don't have unnecessary meetings. Don't just have a meeting because you're scheduled to have a meeting. Actually, make it beneficial to everyone. Have meetings with your contractors and your suppliers. Make sure you're staying in touch with those people. Because what happens a lot of the times, we get so busy, right? And we say, well, this person said they're going to do what they're going to say. Said they're going to do what they said they're going to do, right? And we just let it go from there? No, we need to check in with them. If things are getting close, hey, I just called the check. I know you're supposed to deliver these in a couple of days. I just wanted to make sure that we're still on track. And what happens sometimes? Sometimes we get, what's the worst thing that suppliers like to tell us? Bad news, right? They don't want bad news because that's bad for their, that's bad when the consumer reports. On the Better Business Bureau, whenever they give people bad news. Or on Facebook, one person shares it, 15 share it. Next thing you know, they got a bad reputation in town. They don't like to share bad news with you. But they would learn the lesson that if they were just upfront about it when things go wrong to begin with, we'd probably be a little bit instead of just letting us wait till the last minute. Do some project reports. Put those together. Have your committee people, the other people that are assisting you, give everybody an update where they're at. The more everybody is in the know, the more communication that happens, the more smoothly the project's going to go, and people won't feel left out. What happens when people get felt left out? They quit. They feel negatively about the project or their role in the organization. They don't feel involved. That means they don't feel invested in the project. Don't leave people out. Do some risk reviews if things are coming up that you know are going to be a risk. Go back to your risk management practices. Those sort of things. If you weren't able to get the right ADA compliance toilets for your building project, or the liability insurance got high for your next fundraiser, identify those things. How do you fix it and come up with a solution? And I can't stress the inspections and audit reports enough. Do those inspections because you're protecting your organization and the people you serve by doing those. Do those reports, do those inspections, do those audit reports, see where you stand. Stay on top of all these things and you will have a successful project, especially a large one. We just talked about all these things, just another re-emphasis on reviewing the budgets, creating your plan, and only use, we're going to go back to the Property Brothers, only use your contingency or reserve plans when absolutely necessary. You may have to get rid of those marble countertops to take care of the thing that has to happen. You have to balance those needs versus your wants in the project. Things that you would just love to have compared to things that you have to have. Sometimes you have to do that, okay? Sometimes we have to make adjustments. We can change that floor tile later. Let's get the building open. Does anybody have any questions about the project management stuff that I can answer for you guys? Did I bombard everybody with too much information today? Absolutely. Let's look at this. How much of this did we talk about today? Unity gathering. Do we kind of know how to do it effectively? Are we able to mark that off? Did we talk about the different tools and things that we can do to be more effective with this? Okay. What about telling your story? Have we been able to talk about our story yet? How to communicate, how to tell that to others, how to communicate with the people that are involved with the project too. Efficiently, we did that. Develop the structure. We developed a structure today, right, on steps to take to be effective with this. Did we talk about how to say no? Not really. It's the hardest thing to talk about, right? I'll talk about that before we go home today, okay, guys? Volunteers. Did we talk about volunteers? We did. How about backup plans? Yep. Flexibility? Strategy? We answered everything about how to say no. That's the lifelong question. How do you say no to people? Some people are better. Some people are really good at it. I'm going to be honest with you. But as people who care about others and people that work in the communities, it's very difficult for us to say no, especially as a leader. We overextend ourselves. Do you guys ever feel that way? Do we ever feel tired? We're living off of energy drinks and coffee most of the time because we don't know how to say no. So, but we'll talk about some of that here in a little bit. I think the one person that I know is the world's worst at saying no is that guy sitting right there. I don't even think it's in his vocabulary. So we may let him answer that question here in a little bit. I'm just going to go. We all have to do events. I'm going to end this training with some effective event planning stuff. That is one thing that we all do as a team here. I have some education in this from Northeastern State, from Meetings and Destinations Management Program. So I took lots of classes on hotel and convention planning and all those sort of things. Sometimes doesn't always do you any good or apply to anything that you do whenever you get into a real event planning. I'll be completely honest with you. But I want to go over some of the steps that you can take, things to make a checklist out of to look for whenever you do an event, okay? The 10 steps to being successful when doing an event is this. Determining the type of event that you're going to have, okay? Is this a fundraiser? Is this a community event? What are we trying to do? If we build an advocacy, what kind of things are we doing? What type of event is this? How will you pay for the event? Where's the event going to be? Location, location, location. Like they always say, people need to find you. You need to identify who your target audience is so you can communicate the event to them. Dress code is important. How to decorate it. Liability and safety for the event. We've talked about that a little bit today. Again, have a backup plan. If you're having an outside event, make sure that you reserve an inside facility as well in case it rains. Simple things like that. Have a plan. How's the marketing going to go? And most importantly, have fun while you're at the event. Do something silly as a team and have fun, okay? Determining the type of event, okay? Is it an academic event? Are you bringing people a message? Are you bringing people, a presenter in, a specialist to talk to them about something that your group is really passionate about? It could be a speaker or a lecture session, a conference like we do. So technically what the conference we do for you guys is considered an educational, academic event. Is it a social event? A mixer, athletic event, you have a performer coming in. Is it something that you just want people to socialize and get together and have fellowship? And then the last is the philanthropic. Are you raising money? Food, clothing, a book drive, community service event, fundraiser. That's where most of you guys fit in to most of the events that happen is down here. You guys are, one, building advocacy for what you do for your organization and the communities. Two, you're trying to raise a little money so you can keep the doors open, right? Pay the electric bill. Try to fund some of those things, book drives or anything that you're trying to do for the community, okay?
Can it be all three?
It can be all three, absolutely. If you notice, our conference, for the most part, is all three. We're trying to promote community service. We had the networking on Friday night, so we had a social time, and then also we had guests, we had speakers, lecturers, presenters for sessions. So technically we tried to wrap it all up into one big ball. So it can be all three. Just keep in mind, the more you put into it, the harder it is going to be to market and reach those demographics that you set for yourself. How will you pay determining budget and funding? Where's the money coming from this? Is this money that you already have? Do you need to go and get sponsors and gather donations from the community to put on this event? Do you need to write a grant so you can do these type of things? How's this going to work? You need to identify that. Keep in mind that organizational funds must be approved by your board of directors as a nonprofit. Okay? And stay within your limits. How many's ever had trouble with that? Huh? Every day is difficult, isn't it? Okay, let's talk about sponsors for a minute. We talked about that. I am the event lead for the Cherokee County Relay for Life team here in Cherokee County. That's a major thing that we have to do is gather sponsorships to put on that kind of event. You know, and all the money goes back in. 75% of the funds raised go back into Cherokee County for cancer patients and programming and research. Sometimes it's difficult to gather sponsors. Have you guys ever found it difficult to do such things? Can anybody give me an example of an event that you have done and that you had to go and get sponsors for? Yeah. Yeah. It's difficult, right? I found it to be very difficult to gather sponsorships in this area. It is hard. But you have to be able to communicate the message of how it's going to be beneficial, because sponsors look at it this way: where does my dollar have the most impact? And those are who they're going to donate to. So tell a great story. Really impact them. Tug on those heartstrings. That's what you have to do. Unfortunately, you don't like to have to do that, but in order to get them to see your vision, you have to tell the story as it will affect them, or if it has affected them in the past.
You know, sponsors can come to you out of the blue.
Yeah.
We put notices out in the community, and GRDA came to us and said, can you partner?
Absolutely.
I mean, who could have ever asked for that?
Absolutely. That happened with us last year. We had that several times. It's all about how you tell your story. And tell it in different markets, tell it in different ways. Tell of it through different communication factors. And I just have to say this, and YouTube is watching today, I just have to brag on somebody. Miss Farrell Prater is now using email. I'm very proud of her. She emailed me twice yesterday. If any of you guys have been to any of these sessions, you guys know I rag on her every session about using texting, using email, using other ways to communicate.
Stop there. Don't do it anymore.
And I'm just very proud of her. She has taken a step that was very hard for her, and she's made it. So I'm very excited for what she's done. To get back to the sponsors, make sure that you have enough. And if you don't have enough, guys, you may have to scale your event down just a little bit. You got to fit your budget. You can't overextend yourself, not as a grassroots rural nonprofit organization. We're not large Oklahoma City, bigger area nonprofits who have multi-million-dollar budgets to do these sort of things. We have to be very careful with what we do with our funds. And if we don't have enough, our dream event may have to be scaled down just a little bit, okay? Be very realistic with your money. Where will the event be held? Again, location, location, location. Think about that. Things to consider. Is this an inside or an outside event? If you're going to do it in a public place, is it open to the public? It's usually with a fee or a deposit if you don't own the facility already. And can you build some sort of partnership or usage contract out of this? Sometimes for nonprofits, people will give you a half price or just put a deposit down and we won't worry about it as long as nothing's damaged. You'll get the deposit back kind of thing, usually in the area. But think about those sort of things. You may have to budget for a cost. Private properties. Anybody ever done one on private property? This is a little different. It's a little bit different, isn't it, Farrell? It's usually closed to the public, so usually you have to have someone at a gate or somewhere. That may be a cost to you. You may have to have someone that lets people that are invited in and out. Usually a larger fee or deposit is required, usually for a private residence, and mostly used for dinner parties, black tie events, inside or outside events. They're usually a fancier kind of event whenever you do these sort of things. But these type of events have been known to raise an extreme amount of money. Think about the Hearts of Gold Gala here in Tahlequah every year. Dr. Comia and them put that on to raise money for the heart program and everything at Tahlequah City Hospital. Everybody, the who's who of Cherokee County come out to that thing, and from Tulsa and everywhere else. Ladies get to put on a nice dress, guys wear their tuxedos or suits, and they get to go have the kids with the babysitter, and they have a night out, and it's a big event. It's a big to-do. Sometimes those kind of things work. You kind of have to, over time, do things that's going to appeal to everybody and kind of get out of our comfort zones a little.
May I just share this one
Yeah,
thing?
sure.
You can have a get-together and have them to bring a towel, a bath towel, and because you are supporting the women's shelters for children that are there and they go home or wherever they go back, they do not have nothing, not even to take a bath. You're promoting hygiene for the child. You're giving the child an uplift, and the situation will get better. And it proved out to be very successful. All these people come with towels.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Okay. Target audience. Can anybody tell me how you normally reach out to people for your events? I know people do fundraisers in here. How do you guys market? How do you find your target audience, and how do you market to them? With a flyer? Linda, George, how do you guys do it? Newspaper? Social media, absolutely. John? Face-to-face conversations. Kristen, how does education do things?
Well, ours are scholarship students.
Yeah.
Ours are pretty defined.
So probably technology is the best way to get with them. Email, social media.
Face-to-face, our outreach team.
Yeah, outreach team. You probably go to the schools, go to events, set up a booth so you can have those face-to-face conversations. Okay, Eva, how does Chewy do things?
Word of mouth, and then Abby's got a Facebook.
And Abby's got the Facebook page. Farrell, how do you do things?
Postcards, colorful postcards.
Colorful postcard. Okay. Rusty, how you guys doing things with Sync?
We diversify. We have to, because
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys know. We got a giant sign, flashing sign up front because it's on a busy highway, and that's how anybody finds out anything going on with it. Facebook reaches a different type of audience because not everybody has internet also.
Yeah.
It's more of an outside audience.
Yeah.
And then newspapers and radio.
So you use all kinds of different avenues because you have to. Joe, how do you guys do things?
All different avenues that we have available to us. We have the website, Facebook. We put out flyers, and then we do face-to-face.
Do face-to-face. I heard you guys on Lakes Country 102.1 promoting things. So absolutely. A lot of the times you have to know who your audience is. If you're having a youth movie night, are you going to spend a whole lot of time on flyers? Probably not. Some of them may not be able to read them, first of all, but how do you get them into the youth's hands? If you do have a flyer, it'll have to be social media, technology, different ways like that. Do a little commercial at the movie theater. You know, they have those commercials that are on. Every kid has to go watch the new animated show that's coming on. So they're there every Friday and Saturday usually. Think about different ways that you can reach your audience. You have to target that audience, identify them first, then target them, and then figure out how you're going to promote this to them. Okay. Again, who's invited? Is it the members of the organization? If it's just like a meeting that you guys are having, the community, volunteers, select individuals, invitation only style, if you guys do it that way, or sponsors and stakeholders, and then just the community. Keep in mind who you guys need to identify. Dress code. What are most of our events like? Casual, right? We want people to be comfortable. We want people to have fun. That's what we're here to do. We're not here to be stuffy and shorts, t-shirts. Let's have a hog fry, some horseshoes. Let's have a good day. Maybe some fireworks afterwards. That's some of the things. But you can do different things. Casual. Where do you think a casual event comes into? That. We want to gather, fellowship, right? What about business casual, like I'm dressed today? Business meetings, a professional setting, right? Formal. Where do you want to dress formally? Banquets, galas. A lot of fundraisers. A lot of folks use those for fundraisers. Absolutely. What about costumed or themed? Halloween, fall fest, giving dinners. I mean, come on, man. It's fun to dress up, isn't it? Every once in a while. It's good to be a kid again. We don't always have to adult all the time. We can go back with our kids and dress up with them. Just some different ways up here. This picture up there, shows streetwear, what casual kind of looks like, business casual. And business casual isn't always what I have on. So most of the time, like Brad is, polo shirt and some slacks or jeans or something like that is considered business casual. There's smart casual, which is considered what I'm wearing. There's business and formal, which is suits, even for women, skirts, jackets, blouses, those sort of things, like Kristen's dressed today. And then black tie events, those are your formal events. So just an idea of something to consider whenever you do that. How to decorate. This is when Mary comes into play for us. Mary loves to do this. Whenever you do this for your events, find someone who actually likes to do it and that is good at it. It's not for everybody. I'm telling you that right now. It's definitely not for me. You need to decide, is it formal versus informal? Need to decide on a budget. Something else to consider. Are you going to do paper versus ceramic on the mill? Are you wanting disposable? Is this kind of free? Throw it in the trash after you're done? Or do we need to have some people there and make it a little bit nicer and do ceramic plates? And keep in mind, you're going to have to wash all said ceramic plates after it's over. More likely, you will break some things and is a little bit more expensive. Balloons, streamers, how do you decorate this sort of thing? Keep in mind what type of event. If it's more of a casual event, balloons and streamers and those sort of things are usually what go. If you're doing more of a formal event, nice tablecloths, centerpieces, and you probably would want to go with a ceramic style of plating if you do that. And of course, tablecloths. If it's a casual event, what are the best tablecloths in the world? Those ones you get at Walmart, right? Those vinyl plastic ones, you just roll them up and throw them in the trash like after the kid's birthday party's over. Those are the best. But if it's a more formal event, you don't want to do those things. You need to have a nice, usually black or red or gold colored tablecloth on the table. Yes, you have to wash them afterwards, but it makes it look that much nicer. Here's some things to budget for. Food and drinks. That's usually the most expensive part of any event that you'll ever do is food and drinks. Always is for us. Do you need any special decorations? Are you going to have guest speakers? Do you need to pay those guest speakers? Are there awards? Do you need to have special presentations made like we do the awards for our conference? You know, we go through a Cherokee artist every year to have those made for each group personally. Swag. Anybody know what swag is? You know that big bag of stuff we always give you at the conference that Linda's got right there on her, sitting right next to her right now? Those things, if you guys want to do stuff like that. You guys get pretty big discounts. Put your logo on there. If you buy the mass load of them, so you can get better pricing on them. But those are things you need to budget for whenever you budget. Now there are special approval items. These usually cost more, and if you're renting a facility, they will charge you more due on these. If you need a dance floor and they have to bring that in, if you're going to have dancing, that will cost you extra usually. If you need to pay for a DJ, if you're having an event that has alcohol, but most of you guys know that our Cherokee Nation buildings are alcohol and drug free. But if you do have an event somewhere else and you are going to serve alcohol, you usually have to pay extra for that. Then you'll have to pay for the bartender, and you have to pay for special licensing through the state and the county to do such things like that. That is extra cost. Lighting, if you want special lighting, that's an extra cost. And then, of course, loud music. And usually what happens when you have loud music? Yeah, the police get called. Then you get to deal with that and hope that everybody's sober by the time they get there. So keep in mind, sometimes, Joe, that can be a bad thing. But then again, you got Ty Wilson in your group, so the police are going to get called anyway.
Unfortunately, that I've been this time, we had them there all the time.
They were there all the time. We talked about liability a lot, guys. This is something that's very important whenever you're doing, especially a big public event when you have a lot of people. We talked about that procedure. You know, they can't technically sue your organization, but they can come for the assets of the board of directors. It is legal for them to do such a thing. So you guys need to take steps to protect yourself as individuals and the organization. Georgie, oh, I thought you were saying something else. You were scratching? Have waiver forms, especially like when you're having an event, and especially if there's youth involved, like the bouncy houses and that sort of thing. Make their parents sign a waiver form saying that if they get hurt while they're inside of that you're not held responsible for that. You know, if they're going to throw their kid in something where there's 20 other kids bouncing around and there's somebody's going to bump heads, someone's going to bust a lip, someone's may even lose a tooth. Keep in mind that those sort of things can happen. They're kids, they're accidents. Use waiver forms if you think there's going to be an issue. And there's simple templates you guys can get online. I think Microsoft Word has some templates already made. You just kind of put words, type in names and things in there, and it'll be a simple waiver form for you guys to have to protect yourself with such things, okay? Liability insurance, if you can get it. Usually an organization's liability insurance usually runs around $300 for a year, just for general liability that they can. It's usually $4 million. So keep that in mind. Something to consider. A little bit more for board of directors. Very expensive if you want to cover liability for all of your board of directors. So if you have the means to do so, I encourage you to. If you don't, just pray it never comes up. Have emergency numbers available. Make sure everybody that's a volunteer, that's working or doing those sort of things, that they know who to call when something does go wrong. If there's a fire, if there's a medical emergency. Most everybody it's 911, but you know, in some places they don't use 911 and you need to know an actual direct phone number. Yeah.
On the liability,
Uh-huh.
are we talking just for event, or is it good to have?
It's good just to have you can do an event liability insurance. This means if you do anything in a public place that you won't, they basically, the insurance company will cover you for liability. It's always good to have. Like I say, I've checked on pricing before, and usually a $1 million policy is usually up to, and that includes medical expenses and things like that if something happens. It's usually in between $300 and $400 per year. Yeah, yours is probably a lot different. Yeah, absolutely.
Board of directors, like you said before, your board of directors really should have liability insurance.
Yeah.
Really should.
Mm-hmm. They should. That'll keep anybody, if they do sue against your assets, if something happens, that the insurance company will cover those type of liabilities. I'm not going to lie to you guys, it is expensive, especially for a grassroots rural nonprofit organization like you guys who are doing fundraisers just to pay the bills every month. It is expensive. It's not expensive to large groups, but to us it is.
I think it's like $1,200.
Yeah, around $1,200. Yeah, absolutely. Does anybody else have anything you want to add to liabilities? Anything that I kind of missed here on that, on protecting yourselves? Have good policies and procedures made whenever you're doing events. Rules that the volunteers and then the board of directors and anybody that's helping know to follow. Have procedures set up when things do go wrong, a way to do things. Always have a backup plan. Again, like if you have an outdoor event scheduled and it rains, have a place to go inside. Anything like that can happen, okay? Have an event, if someone gets hurt on the place, have a procedure and a backup plan how to deal with that as it happens, okay? All right, you're ready to have your event now. In marketing, you can send out flyers, mail out, social media, word of mouth, billboards, newspapers, TV, radio. We talked about all those things. Okay. What does everybody have the most, what's been most beneficial to your organizations in these different methods? Facebook. Okay. Robocalls are good. Facebook is good. I'm going to be honest with you. Millennials love Instagram. If you're trying to go for a younger crowd, these are the folks that are teenagers and in their 20s now. I don't know why, but they love Snapchat and Instagram. Those are a great way. And it's different for different areas, I would say. Your Facebook crowd is actually getting older. Your Facebook crowd are starting to be anywhere from your millennials up to the heaviest traffic these days is baby boomers on Facebook. They've learned how to use it finally. Now they're on there. They're finding family. They're finding different things that are going on. My dad mostly just stalks people. He never posts anything. He just looks at what everybody else is doing. He's 70. I mean, that's what he does. That's how he uses it. But know your target audience again, and then use one of these methods, which whenever you think is best to help target your groups, okay? The most important part, have fun. And I have to say this, I have to give credit to our entire staff whenever we do these events, whenever we do the conference, when we do everything. It's a team effort. We all have different roles to play. Mine is mostly the scheduling and the organizing. Brad is great with the technical stuff. He makes sure everybody's aware of what's going on and helps give input and put that together. Same thing with Patty. She does a great job on the graphic design and doing all those things for us. Mary is great with organizing the food and the decorations, and Tammy just tries to keep us all from killing each other during the process. But we all have a role to play, so it takes more than one person. Not just one person can do these type of events, especially large events. It takes a lot of work. You have to have a great team behind you, a great committee behind you. And I want to say thank you to all of them for everything they do to help bring these type of things, not only to the communities, but to the Cherokee people as well. We make it look easy, but it is not easy work. It is not. We may scream and yell at each other, but it's just because we're that enthusiastic about what we're doing, and we have a passion for what we're doing, and we want this to be as great for you as it can be. So we might get emotional with it, then we'll go have some Mexican food afterwards, high-five each other, and it's all good after that. Or maybe Brad and I go have some Chinese buffet or something, you know. Always celebrate over food, always. All right, guys. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, before we end, let's talk about no. Talk about no for a minute. What do you guys have hard time saying no to? Helping others? What else? Joe, what do you have a problem saying no about?
I have a problem saying no to anything, whether it's volunteering, whatever.
Volunteering. It's just hard to say that, right? And why is that? Is it because we're... Mm-hmm. The reason it's hard for us to say no is because we care about other people. We don't want to let anybody down because we care about other people. We care about other people more than we do ourselves sometimes. We're willing to make those sacrifices, and a lot of selfish people know that we're willing to make those sacrifices. So they know that we have trouble saying no, and they do come to us with that. I just want you guys to know it is okay to say no. Please know, and you know, if they get upset with you, they'll get over it. I promise. But we kind of set a precedence for ourselves that we're going to change things, and we're going to do these things, and we're going to make great strides. But we can't make any changes. We can't make any strides. We can't make the world a better place if we're too overextended and we can't put our full effort into our missions. Okay, again, visualize it. Make your plan out. Okay, these are the things I need to do. Those are distractions whenever you step up into other things at the last minute. Whether it's personally, whether it's professionally, it's okay to say no. because of what happens if you get overextended. You can't get anything accomplished. You become frustrated, stressed out. And what do those things equal? Heart attack, strokes, stomach issues, Prozac, all those sort of things. It all builds up, right? If we'd actually listen to the doctor when he's telling us these things, we would understand it. We're probably the worst medically out of anybody because we overextend ourselves and we continue to try to push the limits every day. And that's not good on our bodies. But you know what? Our hearts take care of us most of the time, and so do our brains. But it's okay to say no, guys. It's okay to make that mend of that relationship later if you do have to say no. You have to do what's best for you personally and medically. But if you really feel like you can do it, say yes. If it's not going to interfere with everything, it's not going to stop your momentum, say yes. But if you know it's going to cause a big problem, say no. Okay? I don't know if I really helped with that at all. Is there anything you would like to add to that, Brad?
No, I can say no.
Brad can't say no, so. All right, guys, before we end today, I'm going to end this like I always do. I want to hear from you guys. Tell me at least one thing that you're going to be able to walk away with from this training today. Something that you'll be able to walk away with, be able to implement in your organization in the future.
I do it all.
Mm-hmm.
They're all artists.
Mm-hmm.
Some have their own businesses. Some still try to work with us. And yet, it's finding who has the time to come and do what we need them to do.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's my time, their time, who's got the time.
Yeah. Okay.
I would say the structural part and the templates that you gave us.
Okay. Templates and the structure. Okay.
Have a basis for projects now and a way to evaluate those projects.
Awesome.
And also a way to evaluate the project manager.
Absolutely. Great. How to evaluate. That's always important. I'll go back here first. Rusty?
I would say probably just a better structure for the planning portion from beginning to end.
Mm-hmm.
Not just looking at the end, but how to get started and making my way there.
Awesome. Carol?
To make sure that I begin again and listen to the needs that is in the community and the people that I gather with.
Absolutely. Oh, you'll pass? Okay. It's your turn now. You're a pastor. Don't pretend like you don't like talking.
I would say a better perspective of what the project manager, has to go through and what all he does, and giving more support,
Yeah.
and that, because he wears a lot of hats.
He does.
They wear a lot of hats and they need a lot of support. So that's the perspective that I'm taking from what I've learned here today.
Great. Great. Helping others, showing us support for the person that's dealing with all of us all the time, right?
How to say no.
How to say no.
Go Cardinals.
Go Cardinals, she said. Don't make me start singing Go Cubs Go now.
Well, I'll lead with Go Redbirds too. Everything's been wonderful today, but I think for me, just being able to implement these tools in my personal life as well, personal projects of my own, and just how to be a better everything, a better employee, a better wife, a better mother.
Yeah.
All of those things.
Awesome. Great.
I think it was probably the last thing you said, being able to say no. It's always been somewhat difficult for me to do.
Yeah. It is.
What I'm taking out of it is the stakeholder engagement process, basically. Finding the stakeholders was something that I felt was a weakness for my organization, and also being able to define our actions with our volunteers was also something that we needed to focus on. So I'm going to take that information and I'm going to take it to the organization and hopefully better, our structure. And
That's awesome.
I loved hearing about the PERT formula. I think that's great.
It is. It was one of my favorites. Total nerd thing for me to think was cool, but yeah, I loved it.
Project planning was of real interest to me. I kind of got an idea about where I could do things a little better, and I got a little better understanding than I did before.
Absolutely.
Got a good insight here. So
Good. And if you guys want to hear anything that goes more in depth on this, I know we're trying to cover a broad area, but I can spend time with your organization going over how to make a project management plan or how to make a work structure work for your organization on certain projects. So if you guys need that, you guys know our numbers, so just give us a call. I'd love to help you.
Okay, thank you.
I particularly liked the video again because it was a simple.
Those are all for you, Lorraine.
Because it was simplistic in the explanation of what the project manager did. Gave it in 4 steps rather than.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I loved how they compared it to a ship captain trying to manage a ship. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I would like to try out the templates because I really like using, pre-formulated things because that would give a visual impression. And most people react more to a visual than they do, you're just telling them something, they can see it.
Absolutely.
I think it makes me just a better project manager. That's what I want to be when I start a project, be a good manager when I get it going.
Absolutely. And one thing that I will say, guys, I found a program, if you guys want a certification in this and feel like that you want to actually learn a whole lot more about this, TU, University of Tulsa, has a really great program. They actually have a 6-week online program, which is 12 classes. They're 2 hours apiece for $99, and then you'll get a basic project management certification through there. Great stuff. And also Fred Pryor Seminars, if you feel like paying for it, has a 1-day with Archie Looper, who is a national project manager. It's really quick, it's fast-paced, it's a lot of information, but you get to take the booklet and everything home with you afterwards. So you can always refer back to it, and he does cover all the different softwares and all the different things that make things easier on you during those sessions. And I've taken that session before. It was really great. Really, really great information. So I think, does anybody have any questions for us after this today? Everybody's mind blown, everybody's ready for lunch. We do have something that is going on. We talked about this a little bit earlier with our group. We have several groups in South Texas that are Cherokee Nation at-large organizations. I believe the Cherokee Elders Council, that's their sister community, is down in Houston.
We have a sister organization down there in Houston. Talking to some of them. And there are good places down there in Lubbock.
Absolutely. We want to end today. We're going to say a little prayer. Brad's going to say a little prayer for them. I want to thank you all for being here today. Thanks for spending all this time with me, letting me ramble on to you guys. I always enjoy my time with you. One of the greatest parts of my job is getting to talk to you and educate as much as I can with what little bit I know. But I always enjoy my time with you, and I just want to say a big well done.
Yeah, just before we go, I'm going to say a little prayer for our folks in Houston and South Texas. Cherokee Citizens League of Southeast Texas is the organization name in Houston. We also just found out just a little bit ago we have a team of Cherokee Nation Marshals headed toward that way, as well as teams from Tahlequah and Cherokee County and a lot of our 14-county area, different swiftwater rescue teams heading down there. So there's lots of responders headed that way, already down there helping, and so we want to say a prayer for them too. Just a while back, a couple years back, as you know, Chewy had a flood, and I believe that the organization in Houston took up collection and made a donation for that flood here. So they're organization that's very active and likes to give back, so we definitely want to lend them all the support we can. So if y'all would pray with me. Heavenly Father God, we thank you for this day, and we thank you for all your blessings, Lord. We thank you for being able to be here in the Cherokee Nation, and we just ask that you would be with our brothers and sisters, our family in South Texas. We know there are thousands of Cherokees that live in that area. We just ask that you would put your hand over them and protect them and their families, Lord, that you would allow all of them to get to a safe place, that you would take care of their needs that they need for these next coming weeks, Lord. We also pray for all the responders that are down there rescuing people and putting their lives on the line for others. We especially say a prayer for all our Cherokee Nation responders, as well as those from the Cherokee Nation counties, Lord, that are in our tribal jurisdiction. We just ask a special blessing on them as they travel and as they go down and lend their hand, Lord. We just thank you for all your blessings, Lord. We pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. And before you guys leave, don't forget to fill out your evaluations. And if you guys notice at the bottom, it says on the back, tell us some of the things that you would like to see in the future from us, training-wise. So if you would, fill that part out for us too. Just write down on the back what you'd like to see from the future, so we can help better plan to help you guys. So again, I want to say thank you to everybody for being here and giving up your morning to be here. And I know it takes time, which is the most valuable thing we have. So again, we're done.